Well, that's your thing. I just interested in the one who set my soul from sin, the one who take away the sins of the world for every man, a woman, a boy, and girl. There is power in the blood. There is power in the blood of Jesus Christ. There is power in the blood. There is power in the blood of Jesus Christ.
Yes, man. Some Caribbean stuff in the house tonight. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Motif on Alitip Radio. I'm your host, Petula Beckles, and we are live this evening. Our special guest is Sam Archer, the one and only Sam Archer from the island of Trinidad and Tobago. Well, I claim that. We're going to keep it as that. We are here live tonight. The number to call is 347-945-7497. Again, 347-945-7497. Or you can tune in live online at www.blogtalkradio.com/alitip-radio. Again, that's blogtalkradio.com/alitip-radio. We're going to welcome Sam this evening. Hi, Sam. How are you?
I'm very, very good. Good night, good night. Happy to have you, or happy to have me. However we're going to do it, but I'm excited.
All right.
And,
listen, I'm in the back here and catching a fit over Gregorian chant. Tell us about that real quick.
Gregorian chant. Well, Gregorian chants, when I was doing music in New York Tech. I went to New York City Technical College, and we had one of the humanitarian courses. We were studying the history of music, and there was a certain section we study on. He was a pope, one of the popes called Gregorian, and what he would do, he would save a lot of the songs and stuff folks would sing. They were sort of showing you that stage of music. So, there was a stage when we dealt, folks sang in caves and so on. Mm-hmm. And they had they call it monophonic singing, and they sang in a lot of minors, Mm-hmm. A good song to kind of think of in that manner would be a song like O Come Emmanuel. Mm-hmm. O come, Emmanuel. So that would be echoing in the cave. Da, 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 da. Wow. So Gregorian chants was that. So I was sort of coming with, the first album I had, Gospel According to Sam. So, I like to come and summarize everything.
Yes.
So I took that whole concept of Gregorian chants and say, well, Gregorian never chants like this. And then I sort of bring the, sort of kind of make it a hybrid, bring it into the future, and also give it a very nice Caribbean styling.
Absolutely. Yes, I had to jump ahead there and ask that question real quick. But for those of you who are new to the name, new to the voice, Sam Archer, tell a little bit of you from way back when.
From way back when? How far back you want me to go? Wow, okay.
We have like 45 minutes left, so enough that could fit.
Well, I grew up in Tobago, Mount Pleasant Village, or Bethany Village, and actually, that same Gregorian chant song, mm-hmm. There's a section where I sing Play Your Bow, Mr. Fiddler.
Yes.
So those of you from Trinidad and Tobago will know Best Village or Better Village. And they would be cultural things, but Tobago is known for having a fiddler or a violin player, mm-hmm. within the show or the presentation or whatever the event was. We have a violin man, and we'll say oh Lord, I forgot what the event they call it. There's a thing we call it. What we call it, Petula? You from Tobago? Remind me.
Heritage, Best Village.
Yes, but no. Well, yeah, but when they're marching around the mic, and then the
Okay.
guy is playing the violin. There's a certain term we call for that, and then the person will step on the mic and say, "Stop your bow, Mr. Fiddler." What we call that again?
Listen, I can't tell you.
You okay? Well, it will come to me. It will come to me before the night out, I hope, and I'll see what it is.
Let's redeem ourselves before the end of the night.
A Tobagonian who is culturally sound will call in.
Yes, call in 347-945-7497 and put us to right tonight.
help us remember the terms. But I grew up in an environment, in the 70s. I don't even know how old I am, but in the 70s, Tobago still had we still had donkey carts. We still had the Home Sweet Home lamps. Mm-hmm. We still had mosquito and Baygon. We still had, you remember Baygon? You used to spray Baygon and thing, right?
Yes, and then it's into flip.
And shilling oil and thing. We had in the 70s and in the 80s in the Caribbean was very nice because we would get the reggae from Jamaica. We would have we'd get American top 40 music, and then we had the cultural music there. So I sort of grew up in a really rich musical environment. Mm-hmm. Plus, we had the music in church. So, and then we had some people in the village. We call them they were called the Titans in Mount Pleasant Village, and they had a really big sound system. So we would actually hear them all through the village. And when the latest Bob Marley drop, you're hearing the Titans spinning. The latest Peter Tosh, the latest Shadow, the latest Kitchener, anything the latest. Mm-hmm. And on Sabbath, they used to give us a nice little blithe. They would play some Joseph Niles and thing, So when we go into church, you hear tunes like "Walking on the King's Highway, Walking on the King's Highway, Walking on the King's Highway."
They were a little bit considerate of the
and then places until after a while, and then maybe one of the brothers would go on and they go start to spin, and then we just hearing bass and thing, it's some dub and thing that they're busting on the radio. And we should be nodding in church sometime now. You want to hear the tune come on. But yeah, anyway, let me come back. I was kind of doing that.
Listen.
Let me bring it back. But yeah, those days were nice. Those days were some nice days. And let me see. I went to Hammond Elementary. They call it Scarborough State, and Hammond's, and I think that was where I between that and church. Mm-hmm. Was where I got a lot of my start, a lot of my...
Well, you got a lot of, exposure from, church to neighborhood to Best Village and all that. But what kind of led you to go in the direction you did?
What direction in terms of gospel music?
Because, you do a lot of gospel calypso stuff, you have the calypso background with the gospel message, and then you have a little, you have quite an eclectic array of songs.
Yeah, yeah. I interestingly enough, there's a lot of reasons behind the direction I decided to take. Mm-hmm. I was a big fan of Charlie's Roots back in the days. I was into Tambu, David Rudder, Charlie's Roots. They were like one of the premier bands home at the time, and we had bands like Song Rev, Taxi, Calian, Blue Ventures. There were a lot of major. Now the nice things about these bands is that initially when they came out, they weren't really soca bands. They were like really full-fledged bands that played a lot of different genres of music.
Right.
So again, you go back to the 70s and the 80s, these bands didn't just play calypso, they didn't just play dancehall, they play, in fact, dancehall didn't really start yet, but they played a very nice array of music, they were really musicians, mm-hmm. So like when guys like Barry White and Gregory Hines, not Gregory Hines, what's the other one, Lord, I remember his name soon. But anyway, the one who died the other day there, they call him Moses. You still stumped, huh?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Yeah. when these guys came down, they didn't really bring all their musicians with them. And those were the days you played with violins, and you had a really big orchestra behind you. A lot of the musicians came from the Caribbean. Like a cross section of the Caribbean, they'll actually come down to Trinidad and play. They played behind when Teddy Pendergrass came down to Trinidad. There were musicians there playing for him, and then you had bands like groups like Wildfire and so on. So there was a very these were musicians. So I would follow these bands. Now, when Charlie's Roots came out, Charlie's Roots didn't really come out like how the other bands came out. Charlie's Roots just came out doing calypso and soca. Just, although they could play the other stuff, that's all they were doing. Just playing cultural stuff. And they were very, very cultural, and it was something I really appreciated about Charlie's Roots. That was one thing. The other thing, too, was that, growing up in church, everything was very Eurocentric, The hymns were Eurocentric. We were singing country western. And, just to being an individual, I just had I just really had an issue. I said, well, why is the stuff why what we have to offer cannot be offered to God, but everybody else stuff could be offered to God? Right. So we would be there singing all the latest Sandy Patty or the anything American. We'd be singing this stuff, very Eurocentric stuff, but, for some strange reason, we cannot sing calypso or reggae in church, and I really had some issues with that. So, when I got out of that mental slave chained mentality, I said, well, we go in, and that's really that's really the vibe, where the vibe of Gospel According to Sam came. It was really more like a breaking out of the mental slavery that's embedded, that mental conditioning that a lot of us grew up in, So we had to kind of break out of, well, I don't know if you broke out yet. Well, I mean, for everybody, to each his own, and for everyone, they have to take their own time to break out of that. So, you still have some people that have problems with, bringing the drums in the church and playing instruments in the church. I remember one crusade one time we had in Tobago, the guys, they couldn't slap or pluck the bass. That was one of the rules. No slapping or plucking of bass.
At Bethel, really, man, they would do that a lot. I mean, Reginald Phillips.
Well, I'm just saying, there was a time. There was a time that when the pastor would come up to Tobago to do his crusade, he will tell you no slapping or plucking of bass under the tent. And that was a rule. And then we had the issue with Pan. When Pan didn't really come into the church in Tobago, in Trinidad, on an easy street. That was our next big set of challenge. That to bring in the instrument of Pan. So all these things was sort of like a little bit of fuel, and then, living abroad, seeing everyone else that has a little ethnicity, bringing their culture to the table and being proud of it, and I'm there trying to adapt to someone else, so that was sort of like a wake-up call for me, So, little things like that really fueled the Gospel According to Sam. The Gospel, so I said, we go in cultural, we go in traditional, and we're bringing it and we're giving praise to the Most High with it, So that was really the whole concept of that. Now, I got licks for that album, so when if you decide to do an album like that, be prepared to get licks.
Well, I'm getting licks now, and I wouldn't consider myself completely left field. Yes.
But it's the road. It's the road. I guess to each his own, as I said, and each journey. Each person have their role to play, and I think that one of my. Go ahead. Sorry.
I found this somewhere, and I wanted to ask you about it. I wanted. Wait, hold on. imagine if there were six of you, Sam? Could you imagine what will take place?
Yes, yes. I was doing a little take thing there.
Ah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you remember, those of you listening in Blog Talk Land, the Petula's older brother, and myself, we sang in a few groups. So a lot of times when I do something a cappella, I'm trying to remember those days, when we used to do a lot of the a cappella stuff, But it was, you had the traditional stuff, and then you had, guys like Take Six that really took it to a whole nother, place. So sometimes you want to, you want to imagine that you could hang out with Take Six sometimes,
That's something. But listen, I a little bug kind of came to my ear and told me some great news about you releasing your music book.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Tell that bug thank you. Well, don't kill them. Don't hit them with that.
That's a good bug.
Yeah, I had where do I start with that one? I've been teaching for a couple of years. Let me see. I think from like around 89, 90, around there. I started teaching in Brooklyn around that time, and some of the books I would use, they had little gaps in there. No, they were good books. Don't get me wrong, but there were little gaps that I had to a lot of times fill in. So initially, this book, I developed a book. First, there were some pages really that I would keep, and then the pages developed a book eventually, and I sort of developed this supplement package that I would give to the students when they came in, and I would use that along with the books, and eventually, after a while, I started teaching on my own. Because all the times I was actually teaching in a school, there were a few schools that I would teach at, but eventually when I started teaching at home, independently from the others, I actually developed that supplement book into a book. Like really took what I encountered in teaching,
right.
a lot of the different techniques, and I would make a note of it and structure a way that particular thing could be learned in while I'm teaching the course.
Right.
What ended up happening was the book was, I think I actually completed it around 1996, between 96 and 97. So it was really so I did this book without knowing I was actually doing a book. And then after that too, I started teaching again. I took a break and then I came back, and then while I was teaching, I actually would when I evaluate the student based on their performance in the evaluation, I would either have them use the regular W. Shoreham books, or I'll have them use my book.
Okay.
Depending on, and sometimes even if they would be using the regular book, I'll still use mine as a supplement.
Right.
So that was kind of done for a while, and then I decided to revamp the book because I did have a few students that moved on and did that are doing pretty well in their path of music. They did very, very well, and some of them continued. And then folks were like asking, like it was just interesting where people would come and ask you, do you still have copies of this book? So it gave me the idea that this I should really develop this book where it can actually be downloaded, and folks anywhere could actually get the book and use for themselves.
Right.
And while I was teaching at home, I I encountered working with a few university students that needed some assistance in some of their courses. They weren't musicians really, but they would need a little introduction to music course or something.
Right.
And a lot of what was in the book would actually help them to and then some needed a refresher course and that sort of thing. So it's really like a hybrid, and I'm using American methods, I'm using British methods, and then the basic things that I encountered. Because some things the British, they teach well, and then some things the American teach well in terms of systems and in terms of skill. So this book I have, it really, and it brings all of that, all these elements together in the presentation of the material.
That's great.
So,
well, listen, let's take a short break. For those of you who would like to call in and ask your questions, now's the chance. 347-945-7497, 347-945-7497. We're live here with Sound Archer. If you have your questions, now's the time, and it's free tonight. Make sure you call in 347-945-7497.
You're listening to Motif Radio. You're listening to Motif Radio.
3HP Majesty Now and Sanctuary Club presents The Gospel Explosion, April 16th in the ATL. Be sure you're there to get your praise on with Jesus. 3HP, the Sanctuary Club, and Majesty Now magazine join forces to present The Gospel Explosion, an artist showcase, April 16th, 2011 in Atlanta, Georgia. The Atrium. Location 5479 Memorial Drive, Stone Mountain, Georgia. 30083. A showcase giving indie artists a place to be able to share their gifts, as well as artists that once were in the secular arena that have given their life to Christ and are now singing about the good news of Jesus Christ. There will also be a lot of celebrity guests in this event. We just don't want to be entertained, but we want to make sure that you leave educated as well. Before the event begins, we will hold a network session, bringing together major record labels and high-profile executives in the gospel industry to teach artists on how to make global impact for the kingdom of God. Our vision is to have a gospel event like no other. It's going to be a star-studded, praise-filled night, bringing together some of the most anointed gospel artists together on one stage. You don't want to miss this exciting night. You can go to www.gospelexplosionacl.com. Also, you can contact Troy Edwards, CEO of 3HP Records, at 404-890-0056 or 3hprecords@gmail.com.
When you're planning your next event, religious, corporate, political, weddings, concerts, or even a party, choosing the wrong sound company can ruin all of your plans and hard work. For the best in professional sound systems and DJs, call LG Consulting, 516-322-3489. That's 516-322-3489. To get the peace of mind you deserve when planning your next event, please call LG Consulting at 516-322-3489. That's 516-322-3489.
And I want you to know he loves us so.
He made it through, and we are live this evening with Sam Archer. Sam, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was thinking that record hasn't really officially been available in stores. That's, you know, those of you who have that album, it's a unique situation.
So we're blessed over here.
Yes. You're giving me some ideas. But yeah.
You were talking about your book.
Yes.
So you decided, it was written in 1996, you say, and then you decided
Well, completed. It was completed around that time.
Mm-hmm.
And folks have been requesting it, you know, like past students and, you know, just people that knew that the book existed. Because, you know, it's almost like, you know, you remember your auntie long time that would make seasoning that, you know, every time she makes seasoning and pepper sauce, you know, she'll save a bottle for you.
Yes.
And, you know, you didn't get that in the stores, you know, so the book was kind of like that. You know, it was sort of like, okay, this book is not in stores, but, you know, you can speak to Sir Archer and you get this book. So, you know, and then it was kind of like, you know, people are in different parts of the world. I'm like, you know what, it's best I revamp this thing and make it a digital book and, you know, have it out there so if anyone who wants to either learn how to play the piano, you know, get a beginner's, and, you know, introduction to the keyboard, learn about the keyboard, learn the basics, you know, sight reading and understand the notes and the duration of the notes and your time signatures, you know, and exercises for the right hand and the left hand, you can have access to the book. Actually, this book actually carries you from beginning to probably around, around between grade 1 and grade 2.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so normally when you finish this book, you have a good bit of information where you can decide to continue, or if you just wanted to just have an introduction to music and just understand what it is when you open a hymnal or open any sort of a music book, you can say, oh yeah, this is G and that's F, and oh, it's in 2/4 or 3/4. You know, you can at least know some of the basic things when you look at that piece of music.
Right. Wow. Well, where can we get the book at this point?
It's pretty much online, and